I want to share the incredible story of one of the shortest players in NBA history. Throughout this video, I'll break down exactly how a 5'9" guard managed to bring a legendary franchise back to life. A kid drafted in the very last pick of the draft managed to practically steal Boston's heart, and the moment he was selected first overall will likely give you goosebumps as you watch. Before we begin, if you love NBA stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's start the countdown right away. Chapter 10, the trade nobody noticed. It's February 19th, 2015, and in the final minutes of the trade deadline, Danny Ainge picked up the phone on a whim and managed to acquire a small guard from the Phoenix Suns. In exchange, he sent Marcus Thornton and Cleveland's 2016 first-round draft pick. On that day, the league barely talked about this trade at all. He was seen as just a solid backup player, and that was the extent of it. But that little guy would go on to take Boston to a whole new level. And sometimes, just like in this example, history can begin quietly rather than with a bang. Chapter 9, Mr. Irrelevant. The 60th pick in the 2011 wrapped the very last name on the list. The player selected at this spot is nicknamed Mr. Irrelevant, meaning something like the unimportant guy. The Sacramento Kings used that very last pick to select the 5'9" Isaiah Thomas. He was one of the shortest players in the league, and everyone was saying the same thing. He's too short and too risky, but all Thomas wanted was a chance, and he wasn't going to let that chance go to waste. Chapter 8, Cool-Headed. Years before his time in Boston, he wore a Washington Huskies jersey, and on March 12, 2011, they were in the Pac-10 tournament final. The score was tied against Arizona in overtime, and the final seconds were ticking away quickly. Thomas took the ball, stepped back, and calmly knocked down the shot from about 16 feet just before the buzzer sounded. Washington won the championship 77-75. That day, he defeated the top-seeded team in the tournament and was named the tournament's most valuable player. In fact, I'd say that was the moment a legend was born. It was clearly in his nature to step up to the plate. As a result, he was never afraid of the big stage. Chapter 7, Wrong Place. Before Boston, he was in Phoenix and he wasn't really happy there. The Suns' guard rotation was absolutely packed. He was literally forced to share the court and even the ball with Goran Dragic and Eric Bledsoe. The man who had been averaging 20 points per game in Sacramento just a year earlier found himself benched in this situation. In his own words, the situation was tough. And this wasn't what he had expected. 3 stars and 1 ball. It was a scenario where someone was bound to lose out. That's exactly why Boston became a lifeline for him. Chapter 6, From Bench Player to Star. Brad Stevens first wanted to use him as the 6th man and later adapted him to the starting 5. With that, Thomas also had a major breakout. In the 2015-16 season, he managed to average 22 points per game. This also marked his first All-Star selection. Of course, the Celtics made it back to the playoffs, and I should also mention that he put up a 42-point game in the series against Atlanta. After that, the crowd began chanting MVP at the top of their lungs. As you can see, the guy drafted in the very last pick had now become the face of the franchise, and of course, no one had seen this coming, but the city had gained a new hero in the process. Chapter 5, the king of the fourth quarter. Then came the 2016-17 season, and the legend continued to grow. He raised his scoring average to 28.9 points per game, which I'd say was the 3rd highest scoring average in the league. He trailed only Russell Westbrook and James Harden. In terms of fourth quarter scoring, he was officially at the top of the league, so his nickname was now clear, King of the Fourth. The Celtics finished with a 53-29 record to secure the top spot in the Eastern Conference, and he was selected to the All-NBA second team. He finished 5th in the MVP voting right behind Westbrook, Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron James. For a 5'9" guard, this was a season of success that seemed almost impossible. Chapter 4, 52 points. On December 30th, 2016, at TD Garden against the Miami Heat, Thomas scored 29 points in the fourth quarter alone. He shattered Larry Bird's former Celtics single-quarter scoring record. His total for the night was a career-high 52 points, and Boston managed to win that game 117-114. And this wasn't just a one-night wonder. He surpassed the 20-point mark in 43 consecutive games. During this streak, he left Larry Bird and John Havlicek in the dust, and history was being rewritten in Boston. In fact, everyone was well aware of this by then. Chapter 3, The Invisible Legacy. But Thomas's story begins even before that. In 2013, Boston traded Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to the Nets in exchange for a stack of future draft picks. The Celtics had entered a painful rebuilding phase. Thomas brought hope and, in a sense, an identity to that dark period. In doing so, he instilled a winning spirit in the team, and one of those future draft picks eventually led to a trade for a top pick. Thomas was perhaps the one who first opened that door. In 2024, Boston won its 18th championship in franchise history and became the league's most decorated team. Thomas is, in essence, a quiet link in that long chain. Chapter 2, The Departure. In August 2017, a major shock occurred when Boston traded Thomas to the Cleveland Cavaliers. In return, Kyrie Irving arrived. Fans were divided in their opinions. Joy and sorrow were felt simultaneously. The man the city had fallen in love with was now gone, but Boston never forgot him. When he returned, TD Garden literally rose to its feet. A long round of applause and tears, a true display of love unfolded. For Thomas, Boston was always home. The Celtics had clearly given him the chance to be great, and in his own words, he would never forget it. Chapter 1. The heart, and now the hardest part. 9 years ago, on April 15th, 2017, the day before the playoffs, Thomas's 22-year-old sister, China, lost her life in a car accident. The next day, Thomas took the court against the Chicago Bulls. His sister's name was written on his shoes. Of course, he couldn't hold back his tears during the moment of silence. Boston fell behind 2-0 in the series, but then went on to win 4 straight games, securing a 4-2 series victory. But the defining moment was yet to come. May 2nd would have been China's 23rd birthday. Against the Washington Wizards, with a broken tooth and just hours after undergoing oral surgery, Thomas managed to score 53 points. 29 of those came in the fourth quarter and overtime. Boston won 129-119. It was the highest playoff scoring total by a Celtics player since John Havlicek, and he said he was playing for his brother. Then during the Cleveland series, his hip gave out. He was diagnosed with femoroacetabular impingement and a labral tear. That injury effectively robbed him of the peak of his career. He never returned to that level again. But that night and those 53 points, of course, will live on forever. And that was the story. A 5'9" guard, selected with the very last pick in the draft, somehow managed to bring Boston back to life. But then a devastating hip injury and a trade changed everything. Now I'll leave it up to you. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Take good care of yourself until the next video.